additional designations. So we're now up to the 10 that you mentioned plus the original. So that's 11 total.
And just in terms of this executive order 14203, what powers does it give Washington to do in terms of the leverage they have to act against these judges?
So a lot of times this kind of sanction is called the civil death penalty. And that's because they are financial sanctions and they're also travel sanctions. So just to get very, very specific, they tell all US businesses not to transact with the individuals who are sanctioned. So that means any bank that goes through the US or deals in dollars must, or they believe they must implement this by freezing bank accounts. They also send notifications to companies to make sure that they do not transact with these individuals. And so what we've seen is that judges and prosecutors have, for example, not been able to book travel online through regular services. They haven't been able to book hotel rooms. They have lost access to their bank accounts. In some cases, and I don't know if this has happened to these officials, but it's happened to others who are sanctioned, they may even lose property if they have property in the United States, for example. So it's very serious and very severe. It's much more than just a travel ban. It's really a freezing of financial ability and just regular capacity to do business.
And just to understand the motive that led to this, given the fact that neither the US or Israel are, parties to the ICC, why did US President Donald Trump feel it was important to sanction these individuals?
Yes, so he's made quite clear, and the US government has made clear, that it was because of two specific things, two particular situations that the ICC has been working on. The first is, of course, as you've already mentioned, the arrest warrants in the Palestine situation. So, arrest warrants for Israeli officials who are now wanted for war crimes. The other situation is the situation of Afghanistan, where in the past, but not currently, the ICC did have an investigation into potential war crimes by US personnel. So that might be CIA personnel or special forces who would have been involved in the rendition program back during the War on Terror. That is not a current investigation. But these are the two things that the US government has said motivated them to put these sanctions in place.
And it's been labeled as political interference, but it's also a matter of international law. So, for those of our listeners viewers who don't understand, can you just give us context how it impacts on international law, but also if and how it impedes on these individuals to go about doing their work?
Yes, absolutely. So I think it's important for us to recognize that the principle of judicial independence really protects everyone. The idea is that if judges are impartial and independent and not impeded by these kinds of political activities or attacks of this sort, they can go about their work simply looking at the need for justice. And the ICC, of course, is meant to say, all victims of the most atrocious and worst international crimes are equal. And therefore, the perpetrators of any of those atrocious crimes should be available to be tried so long as the court has jurisdiction. And that means it's not only countries that may have been in the past the targets of these kind of investigations, but any country where the individuals responsible are potentially committing atrocious crimes. That's very important, and I think it goes to the nature of equality. It goes to the nature of the court being able to simply follow the evidence wherever it leads. And so the ability of these officials to follow those facts and to say, if war crimes have occurred within the jurisdiction of the court, and we believe that we have sufficient evidence to show that, we can move forward in our investigation. We can promulgate arrest warrants if the pretrial chamber allows, and we should be able to do that regardless of which country it is that's responsible. So long as we have jurisdiction, we move forward.
And just a
What
final
these Sorry.
Sorry, I was just going to say as a final question, what do you see as the impact of victims who are seeking restitution from this organization, institution, the ICC, and how does it impact on its own independence, international judicial independence?
So I think it sends a terrible message to victims because victims may feel worried themselves about potentially becoming a target. Individuals are not supposed to transact with sanctioned individuals. So there's a fear, I think, on the part of many victims that perhaps if they engage with the court, they may themselves be in trouble. The reality is victims can continue to work with the court. The court itself is not sanctioned, but the message has really been sent, I believe, with these sanctions to say some victims are not equal and some officials can be sanctioned. And what I would like to say is those sanctions must be withdrawn. The principle of independent justice, impartial justice, and fairness to all victims dictates that these must be gotten rid of immediately. And the judges and prosecutors should be able to do their job without hindrance.
Margaret, thank you very much for your time and sharing your thoughts with us. Margaret Satterthwaite is a special rapporteur on independence of judges and lawyers, speaking to us about the sanctioning of 11 officials of the International Criminal Court by the US.
Ritmos e Cultura com Jacob Tivani.
E os ouvintes do Ritmos e Cultura, hoje em linha com uma das grandezas da música moçambicana, porque não? Ele que é um dos kings da marrabenta, uma bermuda in the building.
É um prazer enorme estar a fazer parte deste programa. Deixe-me só saudar. Boa tarde a todos que me ouvem neste preciso momento. Meu nome é Uma Bermuda, Dialau Fanelo Estarapo, Gás de Água da Canhela é Mabiscato. Eu vou saudar de uma maneira diferente. Ah, Titavuia, Manango, Tiduma, Tifika, Guiane. Ah, Titavuia, Manango, Tiduma, Tifika, Guiane. Ani motive lo ababa yena otiva mina haikonama. Ani motive lo anona yena otiva wahimbo watwa. Cá estou eu, irmão, para conversarmos, para falarmos um pouco de tudo. Estou aqui, estou aberto. Eu estou muito feliz porque é a primeira vez que eu falo nesta rádio, falo para os ouvintes, então estou muito feliz.
Ritmos e Cultura com Jacob Tivani. Todos os domingos, das 20 às 21 horas.
Tsepiso Makwetla winds it down on Africa World Hour, 9 to 10 p.m.
As the elite 2026 World Economic Forum concluded in the snow-capped peaks of Davos, Switzerland, the global economic conversation is shifting from high-level theory to how countries can implement practical financial revolutions. The 56th annual meeting saw global leaders debate under the theme Spirit of Dialogue. Among those in attendance was Mark Mbugua, director at Yellow Card, a digital asset and fiat infrastructure provider. Mark says Africa's digital asset landscape is no longer just a local success story, but a blueprint for the future of global finance. He joins us now to talk to us about the conference, his takeaways. Mark, a very good evening to you, and thank you so much for speaking to us.
Good evening. Thanks for having me.
Perhaps let's first start with Yellow Card, what it is and what it does and how you contributed to the conversation at WEF.
Yeah, so Yellow Card is the largest stablecoin infrastructure provider in Africa and across the emerging world. And we've been bullish and excited about stablecoins for some time now. So it was exciting to see really at Davos the two things that took most of the airwaves there were stablecoins and AI, right? Leaders were no longer debating whether digital assets fit into the system. They're really discussing rather how stablecoins and tokenization are becoming core economic rails, right? So this is a big shift in tone from speculation around crypto and speculative crypto to stablecoins as regulated enterprise grade, essentially internet money. So so that was very exciting to see at Davos. Our CEO was there and came back really energized about the space.
What was the offering you were hoping to take there, particularly this year around? I mean, so much has happened, and you know the fact that the the theme was around dialogue, but it seemed like there was very little dialogue happening, and rather more one-dimensional dictatorial conversations that were occurring.
Yeah. I mean, I think everyone was talking about the speech given by the Canadian Prime Minister. In many ways, it echoed what a lot of leaders were saying at Davos, that the world is reorganizing, right? It's reorganizing into these competing blocks, and financial systems are becoming more and more politicized, and cross-border trust is eroding, right? So in that context, stablecoins are offering something I think fundamentally new. We're talking about a way to move value without relying on a single country's clearing system, a shared technical standard for trade, remittance, treasury, markets, and it's infrastructure that global businesses can build on, regardless or despite these shifting geopolitical alliances. And I think that's why we're seeing stablecoins being adopted so fast in cross-border trade and across emerging markets in particular, because they work where traditional rails are slow, expensive, and unreliable. So I think that's why also they're becoming so prominent in the conversation.
And just in terms of that, because the conversation is also becoming I think drilling down to the nuance of not only power and influence, but the value that is being derived. And I'm just wondering, the fact that US President Donald Trump himself has had a lot to say about his rhetoric around crypto sentiment, how much do you think that has influence over the market itself? And stable coins, it's an ideal, isn't it, based very far away from a political ideology or leader around a particular country or system?
Yeah, I mean, I think different stakeholders have their reasons for for getting behind stablecoins, and Donald Trump and the US have their own. It goes with, without a doubt, the passing of the Genius Act in the US was a watershed moment in the industry, just given the size and control of the US economy, and then just the legitimizing of digital dollars that legislation brought was massive. And actually what we've seen and what we're seeing across the world, and certainly across Africa, and places like South Africa and Kenya, Ghana, legislation very similar to what we saw in America, and I think we can expect that to expand across the continent and across the other emerging markets. And it's going to, I think, just accelerate the adoption, particularly in the institutional space.
And as you say, there seems to be a foundational acceptance of stable coins and not seeing them as a speculative assets. But there's legislation and there's regulation, and it seems not everybody agrees on what is needed. So from what your experience is with Yellow Card in countries like Kenya, South Africa, what is being introduced, what is seen as progressive, and what is hindering this agency that you're saying people should be able to garner from stable coins such as Yellow Card?
Yeah, I think, as I said, with this regulation, with regulatory frameworks being put in place, we're seeing the stablecoin industry moving from sort of the niche fintech space and well into the sort of mainstream institutional space. We are across the continent at Yellow Card having numerous conversations with banks and the largest financial institutions on the continent. They're coming to us to talk about how we can support their stablecoin strategies as they figure out how to integrate this incredible technology. I mean, without a doubt, it's here to stay because ultimately it allows value to travel across borders faster, more cheaper, with less friction. It operates 24/7 and not when markets and institutions are open, and it's really something that can't be ignored. I think it's going to ultimately have the biggest influence in emerging markets because we for the longest time have been really suffering under the inefficiencies caused by the corresponding banking system, banking network, and stablecoins are a way for the global South to essentially be part of the financial system in a much bigger and efficient way. So that's what we're seeing. I mean, we in the last year have done over $6 billion in transactions, and we see not just ourselves but other players in the industry growing tremendously. And so I think by the end of this year we're going to see many mainstream global and African financial institutions using this technology in their day-to-day operations and to serve their customers as well.
And Mark, we hopefully will have you back to explain that to us, how the ordinary man on the street can access this, how it will serve them. Thank you so much for speaking to us, though, Mark Mbogua. He is with Yellow Card. He is the director at Yellow Card, and he was just speaking to us about
Wonderful, thanks.
The conversation there at the WEF and their offering as Yellow Card. Brings the time to 7 minutes to 10.
Africa at Play with Neto and ETO Chairmane.
Lelintle, talk to us about your relationship with your father, Coach Pitso. What is this one thing that he said to you that is still stuck at the top of your head?
Coach Pitso and our mom, Moira Kakale, have always told us that whatever we do in life, we must do it to the best of our abilities and represent our family well. But the big thing is do what you love and do it with all the passion that you have. And I think we see it in both their work. I mean, my mom has done a really good job with placing Coach Pitso different clubs around the world, and she's negotiated contracts, and she's showing that as a woman you can also do work that is seen, and you can also get respect from men in a male-dominated space. And I think my dad has also shown that you must never underestimate the Black African man.
Lelintle Mosimane, a South African communications and digital media professional. Lelintle is also a daughter to a great mentor when it comes to the game of football, Coach Jingles Mosimane.
Live every Saturday and Sunday from 2 to 5 p.m. Africa World Hour. Africa World Hour. Unpacking global headlines from an African perspective.
And we find out now what's coming up after Africa World Hour. That is African Diaries with Shayla and Kumana. Shayla?
So today we are covering our GBV special. So this 2-hour special is going to be centered around giving survivors voices. I think more often than not we hear from the organizations, we hear from law stakeholders. However, what are the survivors saying? I think that will be our focal point for this evening.
All right, thanks, Shayla. And we move on now to this story that will get a quick look into what the situation is. A startling investigation revealing a shadow healthcare system operating between South Africa and Zimbabwe. It's been revealed in a recent expose conducted by investigative journalist Diana Chiyangwa for the Mail and Guardian publication. And she joins us now to tell us more about it. Diana, very good evening to you. Thank you so much for speaking to us. At a high level, what exactly is happening and how is it operating?
Good evening, Tsepiso, and thank you for inviting me to your show. There is a huge demand for the contraceptive pill, in the streets of Johannesburg. A number of women that we spoke to, they have highlighted that they use these contraceptive pills that are illegally smuggled from Zimbabwe.
And how are they using it? Are they using it as a normal contraceptive or for emergency, purposes? As we know that contraceptive pills have also been used to unfortunately terminate.
The women that we spoke to, they use it normally to prevent pregnancy.
Mm-hmm.
That's what they have told us.
So why are they not going to ordinary clinics?
The women that we spoke to, some they have highlighted issues of barriers to languages. Some they have highlighted issues of medical discrimination. Some call it medical xenophobia, where nurses would often remind them that these contraceptive pills from the local clinics that are provided free from the local clinics are specifically meant for South African citizens. So some of these women decide to use the ones that illegal smuggled from Zimbabwe.
And you mention Operation Tutula and their role in preventing undocumented women from accessing clinics or even medication. Tell us a little bit more about this.
As we are aware that it's been a campaign that have been done by March and March and Operation Tutula in a number of clinics in Johannesburg. For example, the ladies, the immigrant ladies that stays in Newville, highlighted the issues that when they arrive at the gate during those days before March and March Operation Tutula were stopped were made to stop that campaign in local clinics, they would often ask for documentation from especially women who are seeking medical help in clinics.
And you say there is a Facebook marketplace. Tell us a little bit more about how it's working, how the sellers are bypassing the platform community standards and how much they're selling this prescription medication for.
They sell these pills openly. If you open the Facebook market and just search for contraceptive pill from Zim, you will see a number of those women who are selling. Some they don't actually put their names in, but if you contact them, if you send a DM to them, they will tell you the location where to meet them. They normally sell it for 15 rands. Some they sell it for 20 rands a packet.
I'm concerned about the safety. Are these expired pills? And, with contraceptives, I believe not everything is for everyone. How are they administering them? So as a consumer, are you just basically trusting that you're getting the right product, it's the real product, and that it will be effective for your needs?
I think out of desperation, these women just take them. One of the people that we spoke to, the one who sells them, also highlighted that years ago she would overstock and she would have issues of selling expired pills to her clients.
Are you hearing from healthcare professionals about what the long-term effect will be, not only on the South African health system, but also local pharmacies, the backdoor clinics? Tell us a little bit more about that.
Unfortunately, even these pills, the illegally smuggled pills from Zimbabwe, they are found in some pharmacies in Johannesburg. One lady pointed out to us the pharmacy that she bought those pills. And when we went there to try and buy, the guy said he doesn't have in stock, mainly because the lady indicated that I'm the first-time buyer, so he doesn't trust just somebody just walking in and requesting to buy those pills. So normally he would sell the pills to his regulars.
Diana, thank you so much for your time. Really, really much appreciated, and well done on the work that you're doing. Diana Chiyangwa is independent investigative journalist. Brings the time to exactly 10 o'clock.
Africa World Hour. Africa World Hour. Unpacking global headlines from an African perspective. 1 hour. One continent. One voice. Africa World Hour with Tsepiso Makwetla on Channel Africa, the African perspective. Conversations that touch the heart and inspire change. Here